What is up, everybody, and welcome to another special video on the Will Hirsch Flips channel. I'm trying something new now, which is if I'm shooting inside, because I'm going to need to do more shooting inside, I'm trying to figure out if I can do so using this camera and have it look good, because I noticed last time that it was very low shutter speed, and so all my flipping looked extremely blurry, which is just, I think, not exactly what I'm going for on this channel. So hopefully this one looks slightly better, but I guess we'll find out in editing. Anywho, I am here inside checking out a brand new product that I just got in, or well, actually, technically I got this in a little bit ago, and I should have checked it out sooner, but either way, it's brand new to y'all. This is a package from Olympus Industries. Olympus Industries is a Balisong maker out of Texas, actually, and they make really interesting trainers. I've actually been looking at their stuff on Instagram for a while. You can follow them. I think they're just at Olympus Industries, as you can see right there. But yeah, I definitely suggest giving Olympus a follow on Instagram, because they've got some cool stuff. But let's jump right into looking at this guy. So, crack that open. So it comes in a custom box, got a little card here. I like a little thank you card, always nice. And then here we have the Balisong. And it looks like just a custom cut piece of foam. Pretty simple. This actually might even be hand cut. If so, that's a lot of extra effort, so very impressive. But it comes nice and safely, at least, so that's good. And so we have the Olympus Industries Balisong. What is this guy called? Is there a name for it? I don't actually know. Give me just a sec. We're gonna look it up together on Instagram right now. So I'm gonna open up my Instagram here. I need to find out. Olympus Industries. Let's look. The Prime. Okay, great, cool. It's called the Prime. So this is the Prime by Olympus Industries. It is interesting. I do like it a lot. It flips very well. So I'm going to get that out of the way right now. Like, it does feel very good to flip. I immediately kind of connected with its flipping. It's certainly a good experience. A few things to note. This is a relatively expensive Balisong at around $230 to $250, I believe, is the price range. And it's a little weird to order. It's not like there's a website that you order it from or anything like that. You just message Olympus Industries directly on Instagram, and then you can order one from them. So a few weird things, but to be fair, it's very well made. The G10 comes out of the box really nicely. Honestly, this experience out of the box is kind of similar to the Scorpius V3, which I really like. If you saw my either my unboxing or my recent video gushing about the Scorpius, then you'd know I really enjoy it. The unboxing experience of this one is really good because the G10 is very well done and the handles are finished well. So that's to say that, like, there's no rough edges, nothing about this feels sharp in any way, unlike my EPS Wraith, as I complained about when I was talking about the Scorpius V3 and how well it comes out of the box. You know, with the EPS Wraith, I had to modify it by sanding the end bits of the handles, and with these Balisongs, you don't have to do that out of the box. So that is extremely nice. I gotta say, flipping-wise, it is really good. It's very performant. It feels extremely nice. It's a very consistent flipper. I really like how it chaplains. It carries momentum extremely well, so that's super nice. One thing I will note, though, that's kind of funny, is that, so there's almost no play. Like, the play is literally basically zero. Like, if I take this, you can see it barely moves whatsoever. And yet, it's got a little bit of tap. But why is that? Well, this has tap for the same reason that the Benchmade 51 trainer has tap. And it's not because it's badly made, I'll tell you that right now. As a matter of fact, the tap on this is really meaningless because, so I've talked about this before, but tap is only a metric of, like, whether or not the Balisong has tap, really. Tap doesn't actually coincide with any real, like, technical issues with the Balisong necessarily. Now, if there is tap, that can be an indicator that there might be blade rub. But this is a good example of a Balisong that does not have blade rub, but does have tap, okay? The reason for this, the reason it has tap, even though it has almost no play, is because the way it's constructed, because it's a sandwich construction Balisong, there is essentially no space between the blade and the handles, okay? So if you look very closely, the handle gap doesn't get any wider across the length of the channel. And you can see this in like the Tsunami, right? The Tsunami has this thing called a relief, where it starts out thinner and then it becomes thicker halfway through or so. Many Balisongs do this, especially channel Balisongs. You will have a relief of some kind where there's actually more space cut into the handles after a certain point, and that allows there to be slightly more play on a Balisong without there being any tap, because there's no material for it to tap against. Reliefs are really cool, however, they're just not really practical in a Balisong design like this, or the Scorpius for that matter. The Scorpius is also a Balisong that has almost no reliefs. However, here's something else quite interesting. This Balisong is a trainer, this one is a live blade. This one still does tap a little bit, so that's actually a really good thing to know, is that there is, even on this, a tiny bit of tap. But it only taps on one side, whereas this one taps on both sides. Why is that? Well, the reason this one taps at all is because the back of the blade is much thicker than the front of the blade. Obviously, the blade literally gets much thinner because it's a blade, but the thickness of the blade means that the thicker part, as it retreats back into the handles, has very little clearance between the actual liner of the handle and the side of the blade, which is what leads to the very small amount of tap that you can hear in this Balisong. Does that mean it's bad in any way? God, no. And you can technically tune the tap out, but look at how much play it has right now. That's nothing. Like, it literally is barely wiggling. So the fact that it has tap right now has nothing to do with it being badly tuned. It has to do with the difference, the distance between the washer and the blade. Because you have to realize these washers, many of them are at most about 0.2 inches thick. So they're really, sorry, not 0.2, 0.02. 0.02 of an inch thick, and that's usually the thickest they are. Sometimes they're 0.025 inches thick. Oftentimes they're 0.015, but 0.02 is the most common washer thickness for Balisongs, I would say. That means that here, because it does not get any thicker, like because there's no relief, and this blade is a consistent thickness from the base of the blade all the way to the tip of the blade, that means that you have a clearance of 0.02 on either side for the entire length of this handle. And up close to the pivots, 0.02 is actually a fair bit of wiggle room. But once you get further out, it's very easy for a tiny bit of play in the pivots to be magnified to such a degree that 0.02 is an unavoidable amount of movement and will lead to a very small amount of tap. As I said, this is a problem that I noticed at first when I had my Benchmade 51 and I added the Flytanium trainer blade to it. The reason that this happens with Balisongs that are trainers or that have thicker blades in the back is simply because they never get thinner. The reason this doesn't happen on other Balisongs is simply because they literally have the ability to get thinner because of the blade profile. So there's a few things. First thing I would say is if you are designing a trainer with a sandwich construction like this, something you can do is you can actually apply the relief to the trainer blade instead of applying it to the handles. And so what you can do is you can have the thickness be one thickness here, and then it slightly tapers off, even by just 0.02, you know, on either side or whatever, but just slightly thinner for the rest of the blade profile. And that would give you extra relief along the axis of the blade, right? So that's one way of doing it. You could potentially work a relief into the liner, but I just think that's kind of weird to think about. It's not the most, it's not the best method, so I wouldn't worry about it. But either way, this is all to say that even though it has a little bit of tap, most Balisongs of sandwich construction like this have at least a tiny bit of tap. It is such a normal thing in sandwich construction Balisongs simply due to the relief. If you have a replicant and then you install a trainer blade on the replicant, unless you can get it to literally zero play, and I mean that completely true, because even, like, look at this. Okay, so see that tiny amount of play? The only reason it taps is because that tiny amount of play just so happens to be more than 2/100ths of an inch, because you have at most 2/100ths of an inch of play to work with, and that's extremely small. Like, that's an insanely high amount of precision that you'd have to add, and getting that kind of precision is very expensive, it turns out. Like, actually trying to increase your machining processes to account for a 0.02 difference, that requires that's a 0.02 difference, not here, but at the end of the handle. So if you amplify the movement that's happening here all the way down to here, and this needs to move less than 0.02, that means that this over here needs to move less by a or you need to multiply the factor based off of the length of the handle as to how precise this needs to be. And so once you get over here, you're going to be working in thousandths, maybe even 10,000ths of an inch in terms of trying to actually get it to completely zero play or tap. And so that's just a very expensive thing, right? That process is inherently difficult and very expensive at its core. And so it's just not something that you can do in a trainer like this, where, like, sure, it's $250, but that's still only considered premium category for Balisongs. It's really not even considered that expensive when you take into account most Balisongs. So yeah, but this is all to say, I really do like this thing. The way it flips is extremely satisfying. It's a very nice flipper. It feels really good. I really do like the way Olympus made this Balisong. I think it's a very good Balisong. I like the green colorway as well. It feels kind of like I'd say it feels more adjacent to a Benchmade 51 than it does a replicant. Which is honestly nice. Like, I like that. It's rounder than a rep. It's very satisfying to fan, I gotta say. Like, fans on this thing are really good. Look at that. And it feels really, really well made. It feels really nice in the hand. Like, this is just, it's a good Balisong. So, yeah. Look at that thing. Oh, beautiful. Love it. So, yeah, that's this bad boy. Let's see. Oh yeah, I noticed. Look at this. So it's number 69 out of 100, which is great. Love that. I appreciate that, Olympus. Thank you so much for giving me number 69. You're a true G. But yeah, this thing is really nice. I will probably end up doing a full review of it at some point in the future. I don't know exactly what our production schedule's like right now. We're kind of playing it by ear at this point, but I'm doing my best to at least create scripts for reviews on a regular basis, just so, you know, we can have a backlog of scripts that I've written, and then we can record those on a regular basis whenever we actually, like, get to it, which is nice. Ooh, that would have been bad if that was a live blade. I've gotten better at my little ladder transfer to forehand chaplain. I have increased my ability to do that, and I'm very proud of it. So hopefully I can get even better at that in the future. But anyways, yeah, that is the Olympus. Oh my God, is it called the Prime? Did I forget again? Yeah, the Prime. Okay, that's the Olympus Prime. I don't know why that's so hard for me to remember, but yeah. That's also just a little insight as to why these kinds of Balisongs, these sandwich design Balisongs specifically, are just so hard to tune properly, because, like, that level of precision is just extremely expensive and not something that you can just do easily on every single product you release. Tap is going to be inherent, but the biggest issue is blade rub. And one easy way to check for blade rub is literally just to hold the Balisong sideways, right, like this, and take it and open and close it and look and feel. Does the blade stick? or does it come, as it comes out, does it come in the middle like that, okay? That's how you can tell if there's blade rub actually happening. If the blade moves independently between the two handles just fine, that's great. But if you hold the Balisong sideways and essentially just under the weight of its own handles, if I force it here, you can see, well, that actually was a bad example. I wonder if I do it the other way. Yeah, there we go. So now there's blade rub happening. Where is it? Oh my God, I can't even make it happen. I can't even make it blade rub. Oh, come on. There we go. So if there was blade rub, this is what you would hear. Right? That's the blade actually rubbing against the handles. Something you can do to fix that, by the way, if you do have this problem, you can see the blade is actually torqued a little bit to the left when I hold it open like this. This is something that I figured out on my Benchmade 51. What you want to do, for some reason, is you take it with the blade, you hold that in the hand, you take the handle, and you kind of do this. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing towards that way. And I know this seems weird because I'm doing it in the direction, like it was rubbing, it was close in this direction. So it feels like by pushing that way, I'm going to make it go closer in that direction. But for some reason, it actually centers the blade. Look at that. It centered the blade. I genuinely don't know why that happens. But yeah, so as you can see, that actually almost completely fixed the tap too, just me doing that. But yeah, so if you have that problem where the blade happens to point like slightly to the left or slightly to the right, you can recenter it. So this one is also slightly pointing to the left. So what I can do is once again take it like this and then just torque it a little bit in that direction. And now when it recloses, as you can see, it's perfectly centered. I don't know why that works. It shouldn't work because I'm bending the blade in this way, I'm bending the pivot that way, and I'm bending the handle that way. So by bending them both this way, you would think that I would make the bend that way worse. But somehow it recenters the blade. I don't know why, but it's counterintuitive, but it does work. Don't do it too hard. Like don't super duper crank down on it and torque it. But like, let's see if this one has that issue at all. God, it might be a little bit to the left, but it's really minor. I don't think this one needs it whatsoever. Yeah, it's really minor. Okay, so not on this one, but like, you know, if you have that problem in the future, at least now you know how to solve it. Look which direction it's bending to. So if it was bending to that direction, then I would go here and torque it that way a little bit. And then if it's bending that direction, then I open it up and do it this way. Right, so you do just whatever direction it happens to be going towards, you kind of do a little torquing and then move it up and down in that way. I think what's happening there, I think the reason that works is not because you're bending the blade or bending the handles or anything like that. I think what's actually happening is the straightness of the pivot, because there is actually a very small gap inside the pivot itself, and the bushing and everything. I think it's just slightly askew in whatever direction, and that's what's causing it to like be that way. And so by doing this, you are adjusting the pivot to be less askew. You're like forcing everything to sort of wiggle around and center itself better, and that's what ends up fixing it. Ironically, I did find that if you do it in the opposite direction, so like if you see that it's going to the left, and then you're like, okay, I need to bend it back this way, obviously, because that'll fix it. That actually makes it worse. And now that I think about it, I think I might know the reason why, right? Okay, so let's imagine if this is bending to the left. That means that this thing, the actual pivot itself, maybe instead of being perfectly straight, it's kind of skewed like this, right? It's slightly bent in this direction, right? So, and I don't mean bent, I mean like literally the screws themselves have shifted, and it only has to shift like a fraction of a millimeter, but they've shifted like this. So it's not straight, it's slightly to the left. Okay, what that would mean is that the blade would also be shifted slightly to the left. And so the only way to fix that actually is to take the pivot and push it so it straightens out. And so that's what's happening here. By applying this torque, we're actually torquing the pivot like this, so it straightens out instead of retreating. And I think that's why doing this makes it worse, is because if the pivot's like this and we're applying this force to it, well, we're only forcing it to go more askew instead of less askew. So that's why, even though it's counterintuitive, applying force in the direction of the bend fixes it, is because I believe it moves the pivot to be straight as compared to the blade itself. And I think that's why it shows it as out of alignment when you don't do that. Which, yeah, listen to that. now there's no tap just because of what I did. Which, as I said, it's very impressive that there's no tap. You can hear a little bit of the knife just, that's it, like, hitting against the hidden Zinn pins. But, like, that's pretty impressive. Oh, now there's a little bit of tap. But, like, the fact that I could get it that way, that's pretty impressive, right? Because, as I said earlier, getting that level of perfection is really hard on a Balisong like this. So, anyways... Sorry, this is a long, rambly one that I talked a lot more about, like, internal Balisong nonsense than I did the actual knife itself. I really do like this trainer. I like it a lot. So I hope that that didn't distract too much from the review. But, yeah, Olympus Industries, very nice job on the Prime. I'm a fan. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this little look at the Olympus Industries Prime. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the moment. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace.